You probably could. The Reb Shirim or
Rechen v'tzeiner. Ken is rechen v'tzeiner.
That's okay. Ich verstehe mehr, was ich red nicht.
Okay, so we'd like to complete Tosfos Dibur Masel Me'idin, which is the second Tosfos on Daf Beis. We spent a lot of time on the first half of Tosfos. I just want to finish up with the second half of Tosfos. Now, Tosfos has come to the conclusion that in order for Eidim to be Mechayev Galus, we need what's called Raglayim L'Dava.
That it was shogeg.
That it was shogeg, because otherwise the Rotzeach, the accused Rotzeach, would say he was amazed. And that Tosfos bases on a sugim but mitzvah regarding achalti chelev b'mezid. Aval kasha. So we're up to the third of the middle size wide lines.
I got it.
Mehadisnan b'perek elu hein hagolim on daf tes tisone eino gola. Now let's just stop. Let's be frozen right here in our tracks. We just finished saying that the case that we're dealing with in Eidus on Shogeg for Galus is a case of Raglayim L'Dava. Otherwise, the Rotzeach would be believed to say, I was amazing. Well, wait a second. If there's Raglayim L'Dava, so how do you read this Gemara? Sone Eino Gola. What do you mean Sone Eino Gola? Why not? There's Raglayim L'Dava that he killed B'mezid.
There's Raglayim L'Dava, but where was the limud that Sone Eino Gola from? That's directly from the pasuk. Sure. It says directly in the pasuk, "Ve'eno sonelo mitmol shilshom."
Right.
So on one hand, logically, if there are Raglayim L'Dava, you say he should be chayav galus, but the pasuk says no.
So I can't answer that question because I'm, right now
right.
I'm stuck with the Tosfos. Tosfos says that the Mishna says that Sone Eino Gola. Lav ki haigavna, is it not the similar scenario? Dumya di oev gola, v'mayina gola. If it's the same scenario, no, it's the only difference is
the road that have Raglayim L'Dava.
Right. So one person was an oev, the other one was a shogeg. I'm sorry, the other one was a soneh. So why is it that oev is gola, but soneh is eino gola? Why not? Kevin the row. So just we could count Sone just like.
Why shouldn't he go to B'yesh?
Now, before we see the answer, I just want to point out, if you take a look for a moment in the Bi'urei HaTosfos here in the Masifta, and it would be the equivalent of page Beis.
Bi'urei HaTosfos is before or after Yalkut Be'urei?
Before. That's right after Bi'urei Rashi.
Beis in the Yalkut and Beis in the Tosfos. Got it.
So we're looking on page Beis on the right side, and you'll see the Tosfos is kind of like an L-shaped, if you follow what I mean. And we're on the third of the wide lines. Aval zeh yikshe. You have it?
Aval zeh yikshe mihodit non b'perek elu eino gola.
Tisone eino gola. So Tosfos asks, Umedayekes haGemara. You see, that's what he's adding here. We thought this was a diuk of Tosfos. It's really the Gemara itself over there in Daf Tes. Lav ki hai gavna dumya di oev gola. Klomar. Devadai dina desone she'eno gola hu bi oso ofen, or I would say bi oso mitzius, shebo ha'oev shahara gola. Uba ofen zeh, in this mitzius, Hasone and Gola, just because he's a Sone. Mishum Damrina, we should assume to be Mezid Haragov Akasha. If it's Dumya di Oev Shegola, meaning it's the same factors, the only difference is in the person, not in the reality out there, not in the Metzias and the Hariga. Amayin Gola. But Keva the Amrit, we just came to the conclusion that when is Oev Gola, Myri, it must be a case of Roboa Eidim to Havi Raglayim L'Dava Sharago B'Shogeg, because otherwise he would not be Gola because he's saying Mezid Yisi. V'amai B'Sonei Gola. V'Ikar Raglayim L'Dava Shogeg Harago. In other words, Tosfos in the Havamina is not willing to justify the difference between a soneh and an oev, just simply because one is a good buddy and one is an enemy, or whatever it might be, if the metzius, if the facts on the ground, right?
Support the fact that it was b'shogeg,
Right?
it should be gola.
Hanetunim b'shetach, right? Ha'uvdot b'shetach mochichot, that he killed b'shogeg. So what are you telling me? So you said it's exeris hakos, but I don't know the answer to your question. We would have to spend a little bit more time than I really want to spend.
Let's see what he says. Let's see what it's supposed to say.
Umiyashvim, the Yeshlomar, the shiny. So once we start here, we might as well finish here. The shiny sonen, the kevanshu sono, yeshlanu. Now he adds the word lachush. I'm not totally comfortable with that addition. Lachush.
No, I think it's.
But what he means is that it's only like we're squeezing into a 10% statistical
I think he's
probability.
saying that even if there are raglaim ladavar that it was b'shogeg, it could be that somehow he engineered it.
Correct. Excellent. Well said.
Umach masina.
V'lomar ditfei dibe sina harago. What he says is dibe mezid harago machma sina hiko. V'afal pishen nireh. On the face of it, it looks like harago b'shogeg. But nevertheless, we're going to assume, or we'll be choshesh, that maybe he killed him b'mezid, and we can't send him into Galus if he killed him b'mezid. He engineered it. Excellent. I love that word, engineered. How would you say it in Hebrew, engineered?
Hindes.
Hindes. Okay, they actually use that word.
Yeah.
But I mean, out of context of Handasa.
Yeah.
Who hindes it, they have a tziyut azo. So again, when there's a certain percentage of possibility that maybe he could have engineered it, then it depends. If he's an oev, we're not going to assume that he engineered a mezid to look like a shogi, but if he's a soneh, we're going to assume that perhaps at least it was amazing, even though it doesn't look at all like amazing, but he engineered it. So that's Tos's first answer. And I'm just thinking out loud that maybe the reason why Tos is looking for a second answer, if I could suggest perhaps the whole, so to speak, the weak Nikudata Turpa, the first
answer, because Raglaim Ladover is Raglaim Ladover.
Exactly. And this is a sugi in Masechet Ksubis. I remember when we learned Ksubis, on Daf Tes, I believe, there's a sugi about Raglaim L'Dover, and the halachic definition of Raglaim L'Dover is that it's considered a vadai. It's not considered achra of a suffix. We still have a suffix. It's a vadai. That's what Raglaim L'Dover is. Okay. So therefore, Tosa suggests another answer. V'yod yesh lomar, b'bein b'oiv u'bein b'sonei mayri shaper de leka Raglaim L'Dover. Whoa, there's no Raglaim L'Dover. So now, if there's no raglaim l'dover, how do I know whether he killed b'mezid or b'shogeg? It depends whether he's an oev or a soneh. If he's an oev, we're going to assume, and we had a long discussion about this in Reb Shmuel Grozovsky, that he killed b'shogeg. If, on the other hand, he's a soneh,
but if there's no raglaim l'dover, how can you give him malchus? Because he can say mezid ha'isi.
Excellent. That's what Tosa is about to address. But before we get to that question, just to enjoy the taste of the difference now that's so crystal clear between soneh and oev. What put Tosas into a tazi, into a hassle about trying to justify the difference between oev and soneh was the fact that we had to interpret the parsha of Eidus L'chayva Galus is talking about a case of Raglaim L'Dover, and Tosas ripping the hair out of his head. What difference does it make if he's a soneh? But now we've cut the umbilical, we've cut the fetters off. We're now free to say that there was no Raglaim L'Dover. And Mamela, I understand so crystal clear. That's how I just want to enjoy this point. Sometimes when I get to a point where I do understand something, I like to, squeeze it for everything it's worth. Savor it. Excellent. Savor it. And that is that you don't know whether he killed b'mezid or b'shogeg, because there's no Raglaim L'Dover either way. So the Metzias doesn't generate your conclusion, doesn't give you your conclusion. But what will give you your conclusion?
But you're back to the original problem again.
Yeah. Now we're back to Tos's original kasha. Umikol makom oev golem. Now we're going to read the balance of this answer, And then I'm going to show you here that he quotes a Ritva in the Otzer Mefarshet Tam, and I believe that the Ritva will shed a light on what Tosfos is answering. Because this answer of Tosfos now is going to sort of undermine everything that we said in the first half of the Tosfos that we studied last week.
All right, well, just 1 second, let me catch up. Misone amai eino gole, the kivan the lekker reglaim no davar, shapir amrinon, the bemezin hi kawasone.
Right.
Okay. Umikol makom, ohev gole bekahit pi gavna, afal gavdi yachol omar mezin daisi.
Oh, so what happened with the whole half of Tosfos?
How? The Yesh Lomar, the Mairi is talking about kivan the shasika ohev kishamula eden b'shogeg harago, below amar klum. ולקח אינו יכול לומר לאחר מכן מאיזה דאיסי. So he's saying that he's talking about a ukimta. Talking about an ukimta that they came and were made, and he was shotek. He didn't say anything. And once they said that, and he was shotek, he can't change his mind and say meize deisi. We'll give him a minute to decide, and if he was shosek, that's it. ואילו בשונא בקאי גבנה אינו גולה, אפילו שהוא שותק כשאמרו לו, העדים שוגג היית, וכיוון שהוא שונאו, יש לנו לחוש שמא במזד הרגו. והדים אמרו לו,
So anyway, if you don't mind, Harry, I just want to take a little break here, because I want to show you a Ritva, which I think will really shed a light on what Tosfos is driving at here in his second teretz in the V'od Shlomo. Just give me a minute to flip through the pages and find the Ritva. Oh, I think I found it. Again, you don't have to see it inside. I'll give you the Sefer. It's on page Chav Zayin, so it's not in that last section. He says the following.
No, I have it on Chav. I have Chav Zayin.
Okay, so it's on the right column.
1 second. Kafes. 1 second. Kaf Aleph, Kaf Bez, Kaf Gimel, Kaf Dalet, Kaf Hey, Kaf Vav. Oh, I don't have Kaf Zayin.
That's why I think you told me to start on Lamed or something.
That's the one that.
So now you have to start turning.
Right.
Don't even bother. It's right here.
I'm listening.
So again, let's read the line of Tosfos. Again, that's how he starts this paragraph. V'od yesh lamed de'mayri v'chuli kigon de'shasik kisha amru lo ha'edim. Right, kisha amru lo ha'edim, and kevin de'shasik hoda damya. Haritva hevi terit seh b'shinui lashon. But I'm going to claim b'ktzat shinui lashon. I'm going to add that adjective. Here's the language of the Ritva. The mishkachas lo lamasnisen kishalosh shosek. V'lo chashvina lehoda v'lo akchosh. Now let's understand.
No shtika kavoda here.
You can't. The Ritva says you can't learn that it's shtika koda, because then we're back to square one. If it's shtika koda, then first of all, we don't blame the Eidim for that. I mean, if you're going to say that he's moda, then basically.
Then his chiyuv Galus is going to be because of his admitting it, and not
exactly. On the other hand, he wasn't makrish, and if he wasn't makrish, he's already robbed himself of the opportunity to say mezavis.
There's an extra gemara in there if you want. In the bag, it's an extra chair.
I just thought that Ritva really adds a tremendous amount to understand this Tosfos. So Benny will fill you in a minute. I just finish this one point. What's the language of Tosfos? The ode. Just 1 second. Fine. When we call oev gole, Kavan the shasik ksha amru lo ha'edim not sure what this test over here is. I haven't. Divadai. Okay, he
Yeah,
has
test is
divadai instead
divadai.
of bivadai. Divadai ihavi omar lohar active. Yochel etaritz v'lomalor active shogigel mezid. I will cave on this shosik. These are the key words. Kehoda damya. And the Ritva, again, I'm adding a lot to the Ritva, but Lefiani Istaiti, the Ritva at this point is getting up and yelling and screaming. Are you telling me here, Tosus, that we are activating the principle of Shtika Kodah? And if that be the case, and you have a real Hodah here, Al Pidin, legally it's called Hodah because he didn't say anything when they told him Yochai of Galus because he killed B'Shogeg, then the Ritva would get up and scream and yell, if that be the case, what's been the Eidei schuldig? Why are they guilty? He's being molded that the Eidim are telling the truth. So that's why I think it says the Shasa Kehoda Adam. Maybe we should emphasize the Chaf HaDimyon in the light of this Ritva, that the Ritva is saying, Ein Shtikaso Nidones Kahoda Mamish. We don't consider, Mamish.
It's careful.
It's a Lubavitcher Mamish, you know what I mean, right?
Menachem Mendelssohn.
Right.
Yeah.
But the word mamish is very important in this context. Tosas didn't mean to say kehodah mamish, because if it's kehodah mamish, we're really back to square one, and we don't understand the entire parsha.
Because of the hoda'ah,
And we're going to apply azama, and the Eidim are going to get malchus, and why? Because they were matzdik, they were marshia the tzaddik. What do you mean they were marshia the tzaddik? He himself admits that he should have been more careful, and he killed somebody. Probably in American law, they would call it second-degree murder, or I don't know what.
No, not second degree. It would be manslaughter.
Manslaughter. Thank you. Okay.
Or involuntary manslaughter.
Manslaughter.
It depending on the case, whether the cop fell off or not.
Right. Okay. So that's what we have here in Tosfos. I did not get a chance to see if Reb Shmuel adds anything here on this particular part of Tosfos. But Od Chazon Moed, and maybe we'll do that another time. But I just thought this Ritva is very, very enlightening here. What I'd like to do now is start the Gemara. So how many months did we spend on the Mishna? All right. But now we want to start the Gemara. Let's read the Mishnah one more time. Keitzad ha'edim nasim zomimim. And then we have Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. So Gemara says, "Hakeitzad ein ha'edim nasim zomim miboile." You remember this?
Yeah.
This is something we learned many years ago in our youth. It should have said ein ha'edim nasim zomim. Why? Because we're going to derive from a pasuk global olizaro that we don't fulfill kasher zomam with regard to the Eidei Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. So they're out of the ballpark as far as Hazam is concerned. Avasisim lo kasher zomam. So there's one major word that's missing in the Mishnah, and that's the word ein. Keitzad ein ha'edim nasim zomimim. That's what it should have said in the Mishnah. And honestly, when I learned this Gemara, I was hoping the Gemara would change the gears in the Mishnah and just add the word ein. But apparently, apparently the Gemara is not willing to do that. So the Gemara somehow has to justify how the Mishnah could ask the question of Keitzad ha'edim nasim zomimim. Now, there's another problem here, because if we open up to the Mishnah, where would it be? Maybe Daf Heyam and Aleph. Where's the next Mishnah here? I think it's on Daf Heyam and Beis, maybe? No.
One on Heyam and Aleph.
Okay.
Mishalshim b'mon.
No. 1 second. Give me a second.
Ein ha'edim nasim zomimim ad she'azimu et atzman.
Where's that on Daf?
That's on Heyam and Aleph.
Heyam and Aleph.
It's the second Mishnah.
Keitzad. Let's see the Keitzad in that Mishnah.
No, there's not. It's not a Keitzad. It starts off with ein.
No, after.
Oh, you don't have the word Keitzad?
Later on. Read the first sentence and then it says Keitzad.
Ein ha'edim nasim zomimim.
Oh, Keitzad.
Keitzad. Amru me'idin on bish ploni shargas hanefesh. Amru lahem heich atem me'idim sharei nereg zeh o hahorig hazeh imano yisem ein elusam. Aval amru lahem heich atem me'idim sharei atem hayisem imanu oso hayom b'makom ploni. Harei elu zomimim. So if I were to ask you the question, Keitzad ha'edim nasim zomimim, what should be your answer to the question? It should be Hey chatem me'idim sharei. That's what we call Imanu Ayisam. So the real answer to the question that's raised here in our Mishnah at the beginning of the Masechet is really addressed here in the Mishnah on Daf Hey. That's what I think the Gemara is going to ask now. V'od, and furthermore, Midek Tani L'Kamon. Avol Amru Lahem Hey chatem me'idim sharei b'yosa yom atem Ayisam Imanu. B'makom ploni harei elu zomimim. So I don't know. There's a girsa here of I don't know. Honestly, I don't want to read the girsa here because I think it's just going to throw me off here. But let's leave it as it is. So let's now summarize two questions, two objections that the Gemara raises to the Keitzad Ha'edim Nasim Zomim. First objection is this is not Keitzad Ha'edim Nasim Zomim. This is Keitzad Eino Ha'edim Nasim Zomim, because the Mishnah is going to bring up Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza or Eidei Galus, in which cases there is no kasher zomam, and instead of making the Eidim into what? Into psule kahuna, as they tried to do to the Nidon, we're going to give them malchus, and the same thing is true for Eidus Galus. And the second kasher of our Gemara is, well, the real answer to the question of Keitzad Eitzim Nasim is not even in our Mishnah.
Next Mishnah.
It's in the next Mishnah. That's the famous Mishnah of Me'idim, Heichatem Me'idim, Imanu Ayisem, Boso Zman, B'makom Macher, etc., etc. So those are the two kashas of the Gemara. Now, honestly, again, I'm hoping you guys are going to fight me on this tooth and nail. I think that we have an answer to the first kasha of the Gemara. What the Mishnah is asking in Keitzad Ha'edim Nasim Zomimim is the following question. How could we make these Eidim into Eidim Zomimim when the Torah says and we're not going to be able to fulfill that? So how do the Eidim become Zomimim? Not how do they become Zomimim in terms of the methodology, in terms of the sequence and the content of the Eidim that are coming to be mazin them. That's not what the Mishnah is asking.
How do we deal with these Eidim
and make them into Eidim Zomimim? We have to make them into Eidim Zomimim.
I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't logically make sense.
Why?
Why would the Gemara start the Masechta with how can I validate a case of Eidim Zomimim in this specific case of a Ben Grusha and Ben Chalutza, which is what you're trying to say? First, establish what Eidim Zomimim. I don't even know what Eidim Zomimim are yet.
Oh, so wait a minute.
Start with what Eidim Zomimim are, and then get to that.
That question, I don't think we'll ever get an answer to. Meaning, what do I mean to say?
I'm going.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that the logical sequence here, the Mishnah, is a very difficult question to answer.
I hear you.
If you or I were teaching a 5-year-old child about Eidim Zomimim, the first question you would ask is,
what are they?
Yeah, how do you make Eidim into Zomimim? What are the Mazimim saying against the first pair of Eidim? I mean, the Ramban that we started with when we started Masechet Makkot, the Ramban says, well, why do we believe the second pair of Eidim, not the first pair of Eidim? But he says because Imanu Ayisem is an accusation against the Eidim. So obviously the Imanu Ayisem here should be the opening line in the Mishnah. But I'm asking a different question. I'm asking about the word ein. Why is the word ein more appropriate, according to Gemara's first question, than the way we have it in our Mishnah without the word ein? Right? What was the Gemara objective?
Because he's trying to make a point that when you have, even in the case of Ben Grusha, Ben Chalutza, which ostensibly would seem not to be Eidim Zomimim, you can make them Eidim Zomimim by giving them Malchus.
Excellent. That you took the words out of my mouth. And that's the first answer in Tosfos. Let's look at Tosfos again. Just again, I hate to go back to the Tosfos again. You'll kill me for this, but Tema. Kevan dim huzmu enam nasim ben grusha chalutza im kein gambalo huzmu ech yas al pm ben grusha akui except edim that testify against some of these have been grusha dochi emes, and that's true that we accept the edim if not for the fact that there was azama v'mayo havile edus yati yochel azima v'einza edus v'yeshlomar kevan de lokin havikasha zoma v'avi shapir ati yochel azima. In the light of this Tosfos, I think we have an answer to the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara is not asking Ketzad ein ha'edim nasim zomim, but rather Ketzad nasim ha'edim zomim. How could they become edim zomim so that the edus is valid edus, namely edus hatayochel azima, in the case of Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? And didn't you kick them out of the whole Pasha Kasha Zomim? The answer is no. We are going to fulfill Kasha Zomim, albeit in a slightly different way. I always use the term miluli. We're not going to do it literally and say, well, we're going to make you into Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. That we can't do because of lo v'lo lazaro. But we'll give you Malchus, my friend.
The question is on who? The question is on Tosfos.
No, but then the question is what the Gemara. Why the Gemara
maybe
says.
Benny, what you're implying is that maybe we should accept the second answer to Tosfos. And what's the second answer to Tosfos? That Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza does not require Azama because it was never included in the Parsha of Azama.
Okay.
And now Benny gets up and says, then the Mishna is right. Then the Gemara is right. It should have said K said Eina Eidim Asim Zomim. But again,
So if that's right, then why does the Gemara ask?
And take a look at Rashi for a minute. Rashi says, do you see, it's a little bit confusing here because there's a lot of dark print here, bold print. But do you see where Rashi says, Ketzad ein edim nasim zomim iboile?
Yeah.
Delo, dahalo, mekaimis, behu, kasha zoma. Excuse me. So what does it mean, lo mekaimis? You see, Rashi adds a word here, kiyum. Yeah, that's like a brisker word, kiyum. There's no kiyum of kasha zoma. And the Mishnah says, you know what? You're making a big boo-boo. The Mishnah says there is a kiyum of kashas. Albeit not to make them into Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza.
And that's the Kiddush.
But the ship is not sunk. We're not the ball game is not over. We haven't lost the maracha. Why? Because we're going to give Malchus.
And that's what the case of Edim Asinoman is. How can you make these Edim into Edim Zomim?
Correct. How can you be Makayim Kasha Zomam? The Torah says that every aid, in order to be valid as an aid, has to be subject to Kasha Zomam. Where's the Kasha Zomam? And the answer is that Malchus is Kasha Zomam.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Yes, sure. I'll just want to read to you this. Kosav Ritva, the Tani Hachikama. Tana Hachikama. This is what the Tana is telling us. Ketzara Edim Nasim Zomimim. Kisha Ein Behem Kiyum Hazama. I don't know. I thought that maybe that's what he's saying. Then at the end of this paragraph, he writes that Acherim Pirshu Biloshan Mishnah Shalachein Mekablim Eidei Ben Grusha V'Ein Donono Som Ke'edu Shiyat Te'achol Azima Lefi Shem Lokin. That's the first teretz of Tosfos. V'Zeu Shamar Atana Keitzad Eidim Nasim Zomimim Klomar Osam Eidim She'ein Mekayim Behem Oso Onish Zomu Lasos Keitzad Miskayim Behem Kasha Zoma Vatshuva Shem Lokin Arboim. I don't know who this commentary is, but if he was here, I'd give him a hug.
And when you read the question of the Gemara, that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
It was like after we spoke about it so much, it's
Right.
like screaming.
So let's see the Gemara's answer. The Gemara answers Tana Hasam Koi. Here there's a little base. He tells you, look in Sanhedrin Peites. So now, Sanhedrin has an extra parak that's kind of like a tag along. That's called, what's it called? The last chapter about Olam Haba. What's it called? Chelek. But if you look at the last Mishnah before Chelek, which is really the last Mishnah in Sanhedrin, it says over there, Kol hazom makdimim la'osam misa, chutz mizomimei bas kohen ubal. So let's just get it here. He says the following: Eidim sheidu al znusa shel bas kohen nesua ukmochen heidu gam al boala. So they're testifying both against her, the bas kohen, and against the boel. Is in this case, he says, ein makdimim li osam misa. Ein misa osam v'misa shel sreifa sheba heim ratzu l'chayva. So the pasuk says, "Vayikra chaf aleph ubas kohen ki seichel is nus es avia hi mechaleles ba'esh tisarev." Now, what about the boel? The boel gets off a little bit easier, and he gets chenek. Correct. Elo lemisa cheres, lemisas chenek. Sheba heim ratzu l'chayves boel. So from the two chiyuve misa, we give them the lesser misa, and the Gemara over there is going to derive from the fact that it says vasisim lo kashizovim lasos li'achiv v'lo lachoso, which means the boel and not the bas kohen hanivelis. So we're already on the road, so to speak, on the path of irregular kashizomam, if you follow what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And logically, if not for the pasuk achiv, we would have said, give him the more severe punishment. Whenever there's two punishments, the Eidei, after all, tried to give sreifa to the bas kohen. Now they turn out to be Eidei Zolim. So the fact that, they also tried to give chenek to the boel, right? That's not enough to exonerate them from the chiyuv of sreifa that they get for the kasher zomam vis-a-vis the bas kohen. So we already have, I'm looking for the right word for it, an irregularity, meaning we're not up to, the real kasher zoma. Oh, now our Mishnah is a continuation of that Mishnah. Yesh edim zoma acher, where the irregularity is even greater, right? The disparity or the distance to kasher zoma is even further away. At least in the case of Eidei Zombe Bas Kohen Bola, we're giving the Eidim the Misa that they tried to give to the Boel. But in the case of Ben Grushim and Chalutza, these are Eidim Zombe Shein Osim Behem Din Azoma Kol Ikar Ela Malchus Harboim Ketzad. And what is the case of Eidim Shein Osim Behem Azoma Kol Ikar? There's no Kasher Zoma. So that's the Gemara's answer to both of these questions. Let's see. How does this answer both of these questions? First of all, so now I'm lost. I understand the answer to the second question. Right? The second question was, wait a minute. The answer to Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zomim is in the Mishnah Daf Hey, right, of Imanu Ayisa. No. Now I have an answer, because this Mishnah is an addendum to the Mishnah at the end of Sanhedrin, and we're talking about irregularities, correct?
Right.
But how does this answer the first question? Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zomi Boil. It would seem to me that the answer to the Gemara by tagging it on to Sanhedrin makes the first question even more severe. Because this is more obviously a case of Ein Ha'edim Nasim Zomim. And the Gemara adds the word Kol Ikar, correct? So the Otzim Mefarshei Talmud here says the following. L'chora, Lo nisyashva kusha. Shahoy lo letana lomer ketzad ein ha'edim nasim zomim. Because of a ritva, the tana hachi kama. Ketzad ha'edim nasim zomim bilvad. She'ein ba kiyum hazoma. El lashon zomim bilvad. So now the Ritva is trying to justify the language of Ketzad Edim Nasim Zomim according to the Gemara's answer. Mishub de Perek Hanichnokim Iri Bekula Didu B'Miktzas. Shem Makdim Lemisa Chamura, meaning Streifa of the Bas Kohen, Ella B'Misa Kala of the Boel. Is Ketani Hacha Sheyesh Edim Acherim Kalim Yoser. She'ein bohem el loshon zomimim umalkus bi alma. So ketzad ha'edim nasim zomimim means where there's only a loshon of imanu ha'yisa. Then the Ritva goes on to say he doesn't like that pshat. Lachein nachon yoser the hachi commentaries. Devadai hai ketzad ha'edim nasim zomimim. Ketzad nizomim mitchilasam. I don't understand. Ketzad zomimim nizomim mitchilasam l'kayim b'hem hazoma gemura ka'amar. El dahashta b'tchilas dvar v'lo piresh la el di ayri meikar b'kulei d'toras hazoma v'sof hada l'frushe my deposach u'ktani l'kamon aval omru lahem. I don't know, the Ritva seems to be saying that we're bouncing back and forth like a ping pong ball over here. Let me read it once more. He says, Hachi commentaries. This is the Gemara's answer. Devadai hai ketzad ha'edim nasim zomimim ketzad nizomim mitchilasam. If I read this correctly, this opening line in our Mishna in Masechet Makkot is really going on the Mishna on Daf He. El dahashta betchilas dvar lo parish la. Why? Why isn't he answer the original question of Ketzad Edim Nasim Zomim Imanu Ayisem? The answer later. He takes a break, like he interrupts the flow.
Okay,
because now Iri Bekule de Torah Hazoma. Since he's attaching himself to the Mishnah at the end of Sanhedrin, where there's a kula that they get chenek instead of sreifa, therefore he continues with another kula of Hazoma. Ubesof, when he finally finishes that discussion, Hadar Lifarushe, or I would add the word Litarutze, Esmai de Pasach, to answer the original question. Namely, Ketzad Edim Nasim Zomim. So you follow. So before saying like the Mishnah took a break.
Basically, you're saying what he's saying is that what you told me before I wouldn't get an answer to. He gives an answer to it.
The what?
He explains the logical order.
Right. In other words,
he explains why he asked the question of Ketzad Edim Nasim Zomim. Touches onto this subject because it was a continuation from the end of Sanhedrin, and then continues on in the second Mishnah.
And then picks up where he really wanted to start the Masechet.
Started with, except for the fact that
correct.
Meaning, yeah, but that means that the answer explains why it should have said Ketzad Ein Haidim Nasim Zomim. It still didn't answer why. Like, still the lashon of the Mishnah. The Gemara should at least say Chisur B'Chasra or something. Because still the answer to the Mishnah.
Here
the topic was the general topic. We're starting with Masechet Makkot.
Okay.
We start with Ketzad Edim Nasim Zomim. Then he has what he pulled over from what was left with from the end of Sanhedrin, which is a point to clear up before he can get to the actual meat of it.
Yeah, but the way the Gemara brings it, it's not that it's a title and
right
and hold. It's that I'm continuing. I'm just continuing. I'm just a continuation.
Yeah. The Ritva is really adding, a whole piece that does it, statement. It doesn't say it in the Gemara. Acherim Pirshu, and this is what we discussed before while you were out, that Lashon HaMishnah, you should interpret the Lashon HaMishnah, Pirshu Lashon HaMishnah, Klape Bi'uram Shel Tosfos, which I think he means the first answer to Tosfos. Shalachein Mekablim Eidei Grusha. Why do we accept Eidei Grusha? Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zomim. It means if you don't answer the question properly in the case of Eidei Grusha, then you're stuck because you can't accept that Eidus. Shalachein, meaning only when you get an answer to my question of Ketzad Ha'edim Nasim Zomimim, then you could justify the Makablim Eidei Grusha, ve'im danim osam ke'eidei sheyat yachol azima. And the answer to that question offered by the Mishnah is, why are we able to be Makabel Eidei Grusha, and why isn't it stigmatized as Eidei sheyat yachol azima lefi shem lokim? V'zeu shomer atana Ketzad Ha'edim Nasim Zomim. Klomar, Osama Eidim She'ein Mekayim Bahem, right? Azama Kol Ikar. I'm going to add those two words, meaning as a hemshech of the Mishnah at the end of what? Of Sanhedrin. Now we're going to have an even more extreme case, a greater irregularity, namely that the Eidim have no Azama whatsoever. Is Ketzad Miskayim Bahem Kasha Zamam, meaning to justify that we can accept these Eidim. I mean, the Torah accepts Eidim to testify against some of these Ben Grusha. How can the Torah do so? It's Eidei sheyat yachol azima. And we've gotten to the irregularity, I'm not sure what word I should use here, but it's so far removed from the original Kasher Zomam that it becomes Eidei sheyat yachol azima. And then therefore the Mishnah opens up with the question, Ketzad Eidim Nasim Zomim. There must be a way in which we can fulfill Kasher Zomam. And I think we should put this back into the Rashi about Kiyum. How are we going to be Makayim Kasher Zomim? And if we can't, then the whole enterprise of this Eidus is out the window because it's Eidus Sheyat Yachol Azima. Wow, I mean that's pretty radical. Okay, what time is it? How much time do we have?
It is 8:20.
10 minutes.
Okay, if we have 10 minutes, what I'd like to do with you now is the Afikei. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do this in 10 minutes, but we'll give it a shot. And here, I think it's very kedai to see it inside. If you could open up your phones, because this is like in the last thing that you said to us.
What page?
Lamed.
Lamed.
It actually starts at the bottom of Chavtes, which I think again is included in the package that you sent out more recently.
Hold on a second. That was the more recent one. The more recent one was it's Lamed Aleph the man.
Oh, shucks. You want to take a quick picture? Take a quick picture.
1 second.
Because this
It's
Afikei
going to be al cheshbon of 10 minutes, but what can you do?
all right, but I'm just telling you that this Afikei Yam is very, very profound, and I'm only hoping and praying Shir Malos V'Mamak Hashem should be Zocher, that we Mizakos, that we can understand this Afikei Yam. Let's quickly read the next few lines in the Gemara.
1 second.
Minani Milu. Do you remember this Gemara? You know in your sleep. Omer Rav Yeshua ben Levi, the Omer Krov Asisem Lo Kasher Zomam Lo V'Lo Lazar. So that means that we cannot disqualify the children of the Eidim, because the Torah says mete out a punishment to whom?
Lo.
To the Eidim, Lo, but not to their children. So the Gemara asks the obvious question: V'lifsalu l'didei. Why don't we say Kasher Zomam and we'll passel the Eidim? V'lo lifsalu l'zare. And we're not going to passel their children. Again, there's a lot to discuss here on that theoretical possibility which the Gemara raises. But in any event, the Gemara says, let's passel the Eidim themselves, begufam, but not their children, not their offspring. And therefore, they're not excluded from Hazama and Kasher Zomam under the Pasuk Lo, because we're not going to do anything, we're not going to touch their Zera, their children. So Gemara says, Be'inin Kasher Zomam lasos v'leka. We're in a bind here, no matter where we turn. Because if you're going to passel them and not their children, then you have not really fulfilled Kasher Zoma. The Torah says it's got to be Kasher Zoma. What did they want to do to this Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza? Lifsol et Zaron. Okay. So if you have this picture here of Chavtes, so if you look on the right column and counting up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Yesh Yorad. Okay, so you're on Chavtes, and approximately 5 lines up from the bottom. Yes? Yeshi Yored Lahazbir Tam HaGemara. I think Tam HaGemara means a deeper insight into the Shakla V'Tarya of the Gemara. Shekevan Shezomam Lifoslo V'Ezaro Harei Efshar Lifsol Zera Ha'edin. And the Torah says Lo V'Lo Lazaro, so we can't passel the Zera of the Edin. Lochein Gam Ha'edim Einom Nifsolit. Right? Because it's an all or nothing proposition. If you can't passel their children, then it's not kasher zoma, because they tried to passel the children of the Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza. Now he says l'chora. All right, I circled this word l'chora, and I wrote on the side of my copy of the book, I wrote yesh lish'ol. That's what I think l'chora is. He says l'chora, I don't understand the Gemara. Lama yimashchu zera edim v'psul aviyah mishum onish hazoma. I don't understand. I question the very underlying premise of the sugya, which is that under the law of kasher zomam, we should be passing not only the edim but also what?
Zera.
Their zera, their children. He says, I don't get it. What kind of premise is that? He says, Hello, ha'edim shiavo lifsol kama noshim. What are you going to say about the following case? Two edim come to passel Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi. Kama noshim. And testify they're all chalol. Ilu hayadin shemakayim b'hem onish hazoma. If we want to go with the logical approach and apply kasher zom, leposam psul chalolis, hayu ha'edim nasim chalolim. They tried to make how many people chalolim? 3 people, let's say. Hayadai bozel lekayim kasher zomam neged kol echad v'echad. Me'osam anoshim shebo leposlam. He gives another example in the footnote on the bottom one. On 191, he says, "V'chein edim sheidu al kama anoshim shechilu es hashabbos v'huzmu." Right here, there's no issue of lo v'lo zara. No, but let me ask you: they tried to kill 3 different people. Would be enough if we tried to kill the edim? The answer is absolutely yes. Do you follow? We don't have to calculate how many different people they tried to do it to. So let's take the edus against Ploni Almoni, that he's a cholol, that he's a Ben Grusha, and let's line up his children, put him on a stand over here. It's no different than Eidei who testified against many, many different people. And we could be Makayim the Kasher Zomam vis-a-vis every single person that they tried to passel, and that we could kill with one fell swoop, b'maka achas. Unbelievable question. I mean, if you haven't answered this question, then you got to be the Afiki Yam himself.
I didn't follow the question.
The question is so profound, Howard. Imagine 2 Eidim. You know what? Let's make it 1 aid, as if there were 2, just for linguistic purposes. An aid testifies against a whole slew of people that, as a joint effort, they were all Machal Shabbos, they're all Chayav Bis.
Not as a joint effort.
No, what I mean is a joint effort. I meant to say, I don't know, Shnaim Shasu, I didn't mean that. No, what I meant to say is a joint effort means B'vasachas, they all Machal Shabbos. We have to put them all to death. Now we're Mazim the aid. So what are you going to say? We're going to put the aid to death. But they tried to kill him. 5 times we'll put him to death, right? We'll kill him, resuscitate him, and kill him again. Resurrect him from the dead. So obviously, no matter how many different people the Eidim are trying to be Zomem against, one Hazoma on the aid is sufficient for multiple people who are going to go down the tubes. So if you're going to tell me that by parceling the father, you're also parceling the children, well, guess what? All we have to do is parcel the aid. You can count up the number of children from now until doomsday, thousands upon thousands. It doesn't make any difference. If an aid is zomem to kill or to condemn 5,000 people, we'll be Mekayim the Kasher Zomem with 1 person.
So you're saying there should be no problem of Ezbana. The Ezbana should not be a problem at all.
At all. What's the Gemara happening here? Well, it's not a kiyum of Kasher Zomem because you're not passing the children of the Eidei. Okay, you're not passing the children of the Eidei. And in a case where the Eidei testify against someone that he killed somebody or that he filed the Shabbos, you're doing something to the children. Basically, when you're passing the children, it's because their Eidus is directed against many, many different people. And if the Eidus is directed against many different people, we can Mekayim Kasher Zomam with one punishment connected each one of those people that they tried to be.
Whatever happens afterwards, they stop.
Yeah.
It's inherent in the Eidut of a Halal that there's something wrong with the Zah. Like they are an element here. It's inherent.
Beautiful. So take a look. I think both of you have the answer. Ella, do you see the word Ella 4 lines from the top?
Mm-hmm.
I circled it and I wrote on the side tshuva. I think this is the tshuva to the original Shela that starts with l'chora. Ella shesham zamu l'shtei asiyos nifrados, right, to 2 chil Shabboses or 2 psulei challah. Aval kan zamu.
I said the word. I said it was a
Mistake.
saput.
Howie, what can I tell you? You're the best. Give me a handshake. He says, Umitoch psulo mistayif gam zaro posel. Nimtza shebo lifsol. Here's the key word. Take a look at the word chamur. I think that's the key word here. Nimtza shebo leposlo, meaning the father.
Bipsul
chamur. It's such a psul chamur that it's mispashit gamal zaro. And now what are you going to do to the Eidim? You're going to say the Eidim themselves become what? Psulim, but not their children because Lovelo Lazaro. Well, then that's not Kasher Zoma, because Kasher Zoma will require Psul Chamor Hamispashi Gamal Zaro. Vashal Kain Olenu Lifsola Eidim Gamkain Bipsul Chamor, right? Kamosha Haim Zamamu, Sheyuchal Ispashid will Staif Gamal Zaro. Umiakasham Rakosiv Lovelo Lazaro, Efshel Kain Bahem by Eidim. Onesh Botamida, meaning the same chumrash as Zovel Poslo as Ochim. Rabosai, this is part 1 of the Afikiyah. Okay. We have managed to get 50%. The second half is even more profound than the first half.
Wow.
Okay, have a great week. And maybe you'll mention to Benny some of the ideas that we were throwing.
Makkot.
Yeah. אני מכיר אותך. 7:30.
כל יום רביעי?
כל יום רביעי. בעזרת השם. לא, בדרך כלל זה בעברית.
7:30 יום רביעי.
אבל היום זה התחיל עם חברותא, אז...